All right. I'd like you to first say and then spell your first and last name.
Okay. Do you want me to look at you or the camera, or do you care?
Look at me. What were sort of the life circumstances that led you to work for him?
Well, my wife and I had recently got married the previous August, and I was working at Costco up in Tigard actually, and I was just working part-time, so I was looking for some extra income.
I remember it said something about no door-to-door, no telemarketing.
It was very cryptic. It simply said 1180 or 1120 per hour. Students need job. Very simple. And when you spoke with them, they would not divulge any information.
The most enticing thing about the job was probably the amount of money that my trainer promised that I would make.
The flexible hours, because I already had a job that was pretty consistent, and I just needed some extra money.
Going into it, what did you believe you would be doing?
Vacuum cleaner sales. I really pressed the secretary as hard as possible to find out what I was doing.
I thought I was going to be maybe going to an office and showing people some products, you know, customers who came in, and you wouldn't have to do any phone calls or anything like that. I thought that was basically what I was going to be doing.
Talk with people, I guess. They made it sound like you just talk to customers and write down orders, like really easy stuff.
After the first interview, I was real proud of myself because, you know, he said, "You got the job," and that was good. And I was feeling good because I guess I didn't really know what it was yet, so I was feeling proud of myself.
Mainly what I'd like to get from you is for people that haven't studied business, what is business ethics in a nutshell? Or what should people expect from business ethics?
Well, business ethics can mean a lot of different things, and I think out in the world it does mean a lot of different things. The way it, at its basic level, and in my opinion too basic, is thinking of business ethics in terms of compliance to the law. The way I typically think of business ethics is the place of business in society. How does business contribute to human happiness?
Well, the first thing I noticed that made me a little bit nervous was I was wondering where the customers were going to come from.
So you had a 4-minute personal interview, a 1-hour group interview, then they made the second, they called, and then you came back that afternoon, you had about 2 hours worth of training, and then they invited you to, I believe it was 1 or 2 8-hour sessions in a hotel lobby, and that would complete your training, and then they would send you off.
And at that time, I mean, I thought that like we were going to get a list of addresses or a list of people who had already requested presentations or something like that. But that turned out not to be the case.
Yes, but they also made it clear that at first, however long the first period, the first process was, that you were to contact and make your own contacts for an indefinite amount of time, but the carrot they held was that there are customers, many customers, and lists of customers waiting to buy the $800 set, that you just need to pick the phone up and call them.
Actually, on day 2 of the training, I was like thinking, okay, you know, when are we going to get to the whole where do we get our customers thing? And I asked him, you know, so where do we get our customers? Do we like get them ourselves somehow, or do you give them to us? And he said, oh, I'll get to that.
In general, yes, it's possible for a company to exist for some time, and perhaps even a lengthy space of time, not treating their employees well. And that can happen, definitely.
Did the training rep instruct you to make a list of family and friends or contacts you knew as a memory exercise?
Yes, he did actually, and I realized only after I did that I probably shouldn't have, because I think basically what he implied to me was that we should make a list of like our friends and family and put their phone numbers down, just like as an exercise so you can remember them all or something like that. But it was implied that they weren't going to use them somehow. Only after I did that did I realize that I probably shouldn't have, because those are my friends and family and their phone numbers are there.
Like a challenge to see how many people you knew and how many names you could write down. It was like over the 3-day training, whatever. It was like between the second and third day, go home and write down as many names as you could. which ended up being the people that you could call in case you didn't have any leads.
Didn't do my homework because that was too invasive.
All right.
For just people I know, I wouldn't do that.
Did he later have you group the people on the list into income groups?
Yes, he did.
As married, owning a home, and over 30.
Yes, he did. He called those people HM3s, and yeah, we were supposed to list as many HM3s as we knew, and those were like the prime like sales targets.
The only time that I turned in names with other information of any sort was for proof of having given the speech. Okay, for me it was luckily just friends and family. You know, yeah. At that point though, you could not get paid. So unless you had their name, address, and telephone, because they said they needed confirmation.
We did turn it in. I mean, it seems sort of implied that he wasn't going to use it for anything, but he never explicitly told us that, you know, he's just going to throw these papers away. So, yeah, he did collect them. I don't know what he did with them, though.
I have encountered students who have a very straightforward economic motivation for attendance at school. I think the majority of the students that I've worked with don't have a particularly narrow view, that their view is wider and they're looking to incorporate their business and work lives into the greater question of their own happiness and of social well-being.
Me, future plans are definitely to own my own business. After being self-employed, I could never work a regular 9-to-5 job because 95% of America works for 5% and I'm going to be in the 5%.
Well, the thing that made me finally decide to leave was when I realized exactly what the job is. When I realized that at the end of the presentation, you know, when you go and do your presentation, at the very end, you have to basically ask the person who you're presenting to, you have to ask them to call all their friends, and for them to ask their friends if you can come and present for them. And that was something I really didn't like.
Like the way they told us to say to people was just like, oh, just tell them I'm practicing for a new job and I just need to know how I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, that's really the main part of the sales, was just people you knew, especially your family.
Nothing mattered. I looked at it, when I explained this to my friends, you just burned bridges, you know. You're supposed to call up and give your sob story to a coach that you had 10 years ago. And
it wasn't even me who made most of the money, it was my manager, I guess.
Like I said, they operate so much in the gray area. Like, they do all these things that I think they really shouldn't be allowed to do.
They had the rates, as the rep made, you know, 10%, 15, whatever, all the way down to 50. They put like how much the manager made, and it was like, for the 10% level, the manager made like 50%, and then it would just go down like 5% for him, so it kind of was like an inverse. So it was almost like the more new people he had that made sales, he'd make more out of the product. It's like way more than the rep did too.
People already want there to be harmony between how they live their lives off the job and how they live their lives on the job. And that these aren't separate spheres of life. It's not like when you go into the office, you put your morality on the shelf. I don't think that that's what business people actually do. I think business people carry their moralities, and they ought to carry their moralities into the workplace. But there's still a rhetoric that survives that says business is business.
Do you have any last thoughts or feelings about it?
Well, my whole experience left me just feeling kind of cheated, mainly out of my time.
I mean, there was a time about a week or two after I started where I just like broke down, I was like crying because I felt so guilty for pushing this onto people. Like going into their house and being like, here, buy these $900 set of knives.
Was that, you know, organizations tend to be stronger than individuals, and an individual can have the greatest ideals going into a workplace and be broken down by unhealthy norms in a particular workplace. And so the organizational systematic change is much slower than we would like, and much slower than simply changing an individual. But yeah, my hope is that as new generations enter the workforce, that we'll start seeing this greater integration.